In this slide, I am going to illustrate how to call the clone function. Well, this is a continuation of the previous slide. In the previous slide, I have created the clone function, and this slide is going to show you how to call it. So what I strongly recommend is just copy the content of my previous slide, that is the content of this another class, and where I have implemented the clone function, or you can say overridden the clone function, and then the content of this slide, that is the content of this my class, and then run it in your IDE to get some hands-on experience and clarify the concept of clone function. So all right, so let me explain what is happening in this code. So here again I have created a class called my class, and then inside this my class I have my main function from where the Java program will start executing. Now in here also you have to use this throws clone not supported exception, just to say the Java compiler that, well, there is a chance of clone of this specific type of exception may arise in this part of code. So just remember, you have to use this throws and then this clone not supported exception in two different places. First, in the previous slide, that is when you are overriding this clone function in here, there you have to implement you have to use this throw clone not supported exception. That's the first time. And then in the main function, or let's say from the function where you have called the clone method, like from the main function I am calling this clone function of another class, so I have used throws in that function also. So well, that's what you have to do. Now what I have done is to illustrate the concept of clone. First, I have created an object of another class C1, and I have passed 10 and 15, and it will create an object called C1 dot C1 with the value of its var1 as 10, and C1 and its value of var2 will be 15. So this C1 object with this value var1 and var2 have been created. So that's it, and I am using the same code that I have used for the copy constructor, so so that you can easily check where is the actual difference between copy constructor and the clone function call. So anyway, after this creation of the object using this new keyword, after creating this new object C1, then the next few lines of code are simply the copy constructor code over here until this point. So this is the same code that I have explained earlier. So this is the copy constructor, how to copy the content of C1 into C2 object. And but anyway, in this video, focus on this part of the code where I am basically checking the clone function, basically calling the clone function. So here I have first created an object C4 of the same class over here, and then I am calling the clone function like this. In order to call the clone function, what you need to do, first typecast the object, that is C1 in our case, to the class where you have defined the clone function, where you have overridden the clone function. So clone function is overridden inside this another class, and so I have just typecasted C1 to another class. It is a good practice when you will call the clone method, and then just use this dot operator followed by this clone, and that's it. And it will automatically call the clone function that you have defined earlier in another class in the previous slide. So as soon as this line will be executed, in the previous slide in the another class, uh, this clone method will be executed over here, and by this line, this super dot clone, an entirely different copy of the clone of the C1 object, which is called C4 in this case, will be created. So that is how you can call this object. You can make a clone or make a separate replica of the object. Now once again, let us check whether it is making a separate copy or something else. In order to do that, I will do the similar checking that I have done for copy constructor. As you can see in the copy constructor, that is this C2 have been created separate replica using the copy constructor over here. Even after changing the value of C2, it did not impact the value of C1. It is still 10 and 15 as it was created earlier. Now the same thing will happen during the clone also, that is this part of code where I have basically changed the value of var1 and var2 of C4 to 4 and 44. So what does that mean is C4 dot var1 equals 4 now, and C4 dot var2 is 44 now. And after changing that, let us test the impact on C1, whether it is an entirely different copy or not. So if I just print the value of the variables inside C1 using this toString method, you will see that the value of C1 is not impacted at all. They are still 10 and 15 as it was earlier. And so now we can tell with confidence that, well, the clone method here also make a separate copy of the object.